staying positive gets easier after a while. Even if you do have another dip and another hard time, getting out gets a lot more easy with the more experience you have.
From my own experience, drinking doesn't, it can be really bad. It can be really bad for you, and especially if you have a mental illness.
I can't stress enough how important it is to have someone that you can share every stressor or anything with, because it's like just talking about it just makes it so much better.
Hello, my name is Kim O'Reilly, and I'll be your host on the Caring Network. The Caring Network is a program about people's personal struggles with mental illness and about their journey, their challenges, disappointments, hopes, and recovery. Join me as 3 young people share their stories about when their mental illness surfaced during college and about their journey to recovery.
Things started changing when I started my first semester at college. I started not being able to do my work, staying in my room a lot more, definitely isolating myself. Started getting more into drugs and alcohol. The depression started setting in. I just thought that maybe I was going through a slump or something, because it was the first time I'd been away from home for a long period of time. So I went away for the summer in high school, but never been away for a year. So I thought maybe I'm just trying to adjust to a new place, a new environment. Maybe it's just, I just thought that it was just that. But when my friends started noticing changes and stuff, that's when I started thinking, well, maybe there is something wrong. Everything just led up to my big nervous breakdown in the beginning of second semester of my freshman year. I guess all the culmination of the depression and isolation and drug use, all that together just kind of just exploded. It's kind of hard to explain, but I just felt really lost, really alone. No one really understood what I was going through, and I thought I was literally going insane, because it's there was no one really that I could talk to about it, because I felt like people wouldn't understand. There was so much pressure on me, because the school that I went to was very prestigious, and it was all about getting good grades and graduating and moving on, and I had all that on my plate, and here I was just not going to class, not doing what I was supposed to be doing, and it was just all very hard to deal with. I called my grandmother and I was like, Grandma, I have to come home because I cannot be at the school anymore. Literally, it's a life or death decision. I have to leave. And that's when I knew, I had to get help or talk to someone, because, it was a really serious situation. I just felt I felt like a complete failure, because, I just left school first semester, I didn't even get to finish the year. I was supposed to have a good freshman year, and it just kind of turned into a nightmare. Definitely being an African American with a mental illness is just an added pressure, because it's just another thing that you sort of have to overcome, and another thing that you have to deal with, I guess you could say, despite everything. And especially since I was in a all-white school, everyone's already looking at me and wondering, well, how is she gonna fare there? And now I have a mental illness on top of that, so I have to overcome that. I always have to make sure that I'm on top of everything, because you're sort of representing your whole community pretty much, and one mistake, they'll just be like, well, we knew that you would never make it, and that's how I felt. That's why I felt like such a failure, because I had to leave school, and I felt like I let a lot of people down by doing that, and maybe let my community down a little. It's still a struggle, and I think the key is it's an ongoing process. You have to be saying that this is not something that's going to happen. You're going to be cured overnight. This is something that you have to go through daily. It takes a combination of things, like having supportive, people around you in your life, your doctors, making sure you go to your appointments and, your doctor's appointments, taking your medication if you're taking medication. I mean, and, exercising, like so many things that go into it. Just getting back into school and getting back into the swing of things and, hopefully, I can finish and graduate and, go on to get my master's in social work. You just have to have the determination to know that, you can't let, mental illness stop you from doing what you want to do and what you want to, succeed at. You can't think of it as, a disability in a sense. It's something that you have, but it's something that can be dealt with and that you can live with and you can have a good life with it.
Today's show focuses on college-age students.
Anyone with bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or any other mental disorders really makes it a lot tougher if you're abusing alcohol or any other drugs. That certainly was the case for me. I really couldn't get myself to do any work whatsoever when that first started to happen. I couldn't get myself to. I went to class, 60% of the time, but I couldn't pay attention. I couldn't do anything else, and it was really hard for me to function. There was a psychologist at Bucknell who I saw because I was having a lot of trouble. I didn't know I was bipolar then, or I had any mental illness, and I went to her and I just cried and I cried because I couldn't take what was going on. And I just broke into tears. It's kind of like a nervous breakdown, but almost kind of worse than that. And then she suggested I go home. I was on my way home. I had a psychotic break, and I just was delusional. I came home to my mom, and I was really, really not in touch with reality. She knew something was wrong, and she took me to the hospital right away. I think anyone who's young adult with mental illness should seek help, and as much support as you can possibly get would be the best way to go for it. YAPS has been a great group for me. It's been a lot of source of support for me. It's been really, really good structure for me. And I think the best thing I can do right now is just to listen to people's advice and not take my own, not do what I think is right. Just try to pay attention to what my family thinks I should do and listen to them. School has kept me well, and this is something my mom always tells me, is that, ever since I started going back to school, I've been getting better and better. I'm going to Fairfield University in the fall. When I'm doing stuff and keeping busy and engaging myself, those are the things that help me stay well. Stay away from alcohol and drugs and be really clean. And probably the most important thing is to take your meds every day without missing anything, because that can really bring on trouble if you don't take your meds on time. And sleep is another issue that I've been doing well at, and sleep is something that's very important too, to get enough sleep. Something's going on with my symptoms where I'm not being able to concentrate. I would definitely contact my psychiatrist first, and then after that seek counseling and seek support from my family, who kind of knows what's going on with me and what to do. There's definitely push through it and see if you can get by, and if you can't, seek help.
In a recent study, it was found that 1 in 3 college students reported having prolonged periods of depression. Even more concerning is that 1 in 4 students reported having suicidal thoughts or feelings.
Everything just sort of started spiraling downward. It was very hard for me to go to class or do anything, and just remember one day it sort of all hit me at once. I was walking to a choir concert that I had to perform in, and I just remember sort of losing touch with reality a little bit, just dissociating a bit, and being really freaked out and anxious. And I don't know how I got through the concert. I don't remember anything. I don't remember walking back to my dorm room, but I remember getting back, still wearing my hideous choir dress, calling my mom, letting her know that I don't know what's going on. There's something not right. I don't know exactly what it is or why, but help, So, I mean, I'm glad that I have a good enough relationship with my mom that I was able to call her and tell her that, but I still was just lost. I didn't feel like I fit in at school or anywhere really. I didn't feel like I fit in with my family. I felt like I had no sense of direction in my life, and I was just all of a sudden thinking about the future, way far in the future, way too much, and sort of just obsessing over it to the point where I was just so incredibly overwhelmed that I couldn't really handle anything at that point. Honestly, I can't emphasize enough how helpful my friends were for me to get through college. One of my friends in particular that transferred from GW to Hamilton with me, she was my roommate pretty much all 4 years, and when I was dragging and absolutely would not get out of bed, had my shades down, didn't want to do anything, she would come into my room, lift up my shades, be like, "You need to get out of bed right now. This is ridiculous." And she knew, she was extremely understanding of my mental illness or whatever was going on, and she still went way out of her way to make sure I got to class. There was definitely stigma from peers as well as professors and administrators. I felt it more strongly from the administration, which was really disappointing and discouraging to think that such a great liberal arts college would be a little bit more in tune with things like mental illness. But my peers also surprised me. I remember I had to take a break from my choir for a while because I didn't want to go on the tour abroad. I was anxious about that. I didn't know a lot of people because this all happened my sophomore year and I was still recovering from my first break. And I took that semester off and came back, and there was gossip about me and why I had to take a break, and people weren't as willing to approach me the way they were before. Like, we weren't as friendly, and so I didn't want to be as friendly with them, and it was unfortunate because choir was a huge part of my college experience, and it took me a while to get comfortable with those people again. Recognizing my psychotic break as such was probably the biggest step to recovery for me. And I'm still in denial sort of about certain diagnoses I've been given, because I've been given quite a variety. But, once I was okay with accepting that, I was able to get on medication and go through a few psychiatrists and a few different kinds of meds to get on the right meds. But once I was, that helped me start to think more clearly and more rationally and allow my friends to help me sort of get through. And I mean, you do need to move yourself, obviously. Like, you're the only person that can really get yourself moving. But, the support from my friends was absolutely wonderful and very helpful. So I had a couple months that summer before I was just supposed to start my job. So I decided to start up a peer-to-peer support group for young adults, people ages 16 to 26. We're called YAPS, Young Adult Peer Support. And basically, it's just a group where anybody with mental illness that's a young adult can come to share, just have a safe place, not be judged. Really, I mean, we get a lot from each other. Not only do we serve as sort of supports for each other, but these people have become very close friends of mine. As long as you have other people around you that you feel comfortable with, you can, use that support to help force yourself into a more positive state of mind. Like, do things you like to do. I mean, basic activities like just doing sports that you like, or anything that, an average person would do to sort of lift their own mood. But you need to actively make a decision, and it's a little bit harder, I think, for people with mental illness to force themselves to be positive, but it's worth it.
I want to thank you all for sharing your stories. They were really powerful stories and very heartfelt. And I'm really glad that we're here together now so we can talk as a group and maybe share a little bit together of some more information about what went on at college. It seems like, young people work really, really hard for years thinking about college and planning for college. And then for the three of you got to college and it wasn't really what you were planning. So Eddie, you want to just talk a little bit about that, what you were hoping for, and then what happened?
I mean, everyone always told me that college is the best part of it, best time of your life. And, I was expecting, for it to be the most amazing experience ever. And, getting there, it was a real shock. I mean, for it to be it was just so much different from what I expected. It turned out to be pretty horrible. But, I mean, that's what I think also. It's just like you can't go in with these huge expectations. I mean, you just have to take it one day at a time because, I mean, I mean, nothing is ever going to work out the way you plan it. I mean, life is always throwing you curveballs, and that's pretty much what happened to me. So,
Kaylin, how about you? I mean, what kind of sort of vision did you have of college, and then?
Well, I actually didn't really have many expectations going into it. My dad didn't even, get through high school until very late. But transferring is what really did it for me. My freshman year, I had a blast, but I mean, didn't have to go to class or anything. It was a huge university, and just the change going to, transferring. I never even thought I would have to transfer, and I think that's something people might want to keep in mind. You don't know what to expect until you get there, and things will change, and you have to be ready for that and be okay with it. And the people you're going to meet at your school's different. You never know what to expect.
How about you, Doug? In terms of, I know you went to school and you're studying computer science and math. What were you looking forward to when you?
Well, I definitely had a really great time my freshman year because, I was drinking a lot and everything was going well. I got good grades and everything like that. But then, sophomore year just kind of bit me, and I just had to struggle through it. And it was definitely not as fun or as nice as as my first year at Bucknell. So, and then my junior year or my sophomore year, I didn't have a really great time at all with school. It was just a hard time for me.
It sounds like you weren't prepared for something like this to happen. Is there any way you could have been prepared, or something that could have been more helpful that maybe other young people could know about, or maybe the schools could know about? Do you have any sort of thoughts on that?
I definitely think that in terms of like the school and professors and like the administration being better prepared to deal with students with mental illness. I mean, it's a big problem on college campuses now, and I don't think a lot of schools have the resources to deal with something like that, and a lot of kids fall through the cracks like I did. I definitely think if you have something during like freshman orientation, like someone coming in and talk to them, telling them, look, we have these resources here. You can come here if you're feeling like this. There's an open space here, place for you to come to talk about whatever's going on, a safe space rather, for you to come and talk about whatever you're going on, whatever your feelings are. Just having that connection or just someone to talk to, I think is the most important thing, because just getting it off your chest is the most important thing you can do. And just knowing that you have a place where you can go, where you can be listened to and comforted and, supported, it just makes a huge difference. And I think maybe if I would have had something like that my freshman year, things might have turned out a little differently.
So who would be the right type of person to talk about that? I mean, would you listen to someone my age, or would it be better if it was, someone closer to your age?
I mean, I think definitely it would be more approachable if it was someone, my own age, obviously, like, someone who's been through the experience, knows what I'm going through, someone I can relate to. I definitely think you're more willing to listen, to them and to their, struggle and whatnot. So.
Well, Kaylin, I mean, you had a lot of awareness. You said your brother had been ill, and so it sounds like you knew a lot about mental illness, and yet it also sounds like you were taken by surprise.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you felt might help you to be more prepared, or help you catch this a little earlier?
Yeah, well, I think in addition to what Eddie was saying about having, during an orientation, having whoever's in charge of it, administration, professors, whomever, run, a little information session about what resources are available at the school. It might be nice to have, just some kind of orientation thing that would also discuss, like, here's some warning signs that you might want to be aware of. Also, I think it would be better coming from a young adult, someone that's been through it. But try to force the students to be more self-aware. Think of things that, they could see in their friends that maybe would be a warning sign to be like, hey, just little things like that because people hear about mental illness, they know that it happens, they know that it happens at colleges and all of that. And I mean, I was definitely very aware of what kinds of symptoms might show up. But when you're not totally self-aware, especially in college, when you're just starting off this brand new experience, you're not really focusing on those things. And I was definitely distracted with other things and just sort of spiraled out from there.
So warning signs. I mean, maybe you can help me sort of understand what you mean by that. I don't know, Doug, can you sort of put your finger on maybe what the early warning signs were?
Well, when I was a junior in high school, I had an episode of depression. So that's kind of what was early warning sign. And you can't really tell, but there's definitely some signs when I was growing up that I was bipolar that I just didn't see till I got diagnosed.
How about at school, maybe in your freshman year, was there anything that you could pick up on? Or?
I was pretty sane that my freshman year, so nothing really major that would tell if I was mentally ill.
Is there anything, Eddie, that you might sort of...
I definitely think thinking about school, if you're having trouble with school, classes, changing sleeping patterns, maybe you're staying up, you can't sleep, or you're sleeping too much, being a lot isolated, because I know with me, I tended to isolate myself a lot more, didn't want to be around people, anything, just kind of a change in your normal behavior, I think is a slight warning sign, something's going on, maybe you need to get help, or, especially, in college, and, everyone's drinking, everyone's, or doing drugs or whatever, thinking that's a way to cope with things, using that as a way to just cope with, any pressure you're having. I definitely think that's a big warning sign.
Losing interest in things you enjoy doing.
Exactly.
I mean, that was a big one. For the two of us, we used to be, when we were living together, we loved music and all of, just hanging out with our friends. And then slowly our depression spiraled out together and we stopped listening to music. We would just keep our blinds down, and our friends definitely noticed these things. And I think it's also good to teach friends to be aware of certain things.
Right.
So you mentioned friends. So your friends did notice, and did they tell you?
Yeah, they did. And there were definitely a few of them that tried to be very proactive about it, which was great for us because that did help out a lot. But unfortunately, a lot of friends will just, if it gets too difficult, peace out, Sorry, I'm going through a happy time right now and I don't want to be a part of your sad time, things like that. So that is something to also be aware of. I mean, you might be surprised with which friends choose to stay with you and which don't,
choose to leave,
who chooses
exactly. And I lost a couple of friends, while I was at school because of, what I was going through, and some stayed, some didn't. So, that was also a huge blow to me. So, I mean, there's a lot of, it's just very difficult, I think, in general, But, I mean, there's all different kinds of warning signs. It's just very different with everyone. But, I mean, there are similar ones that are there,
If students could understand better and that be part of orientation, and maybe it's not going to happen to you, but it might happen to one of your friends.
Right.
So it'd be good for everybody to understand it. And also what I heard is maybe your professors, if there was more understanding from that part, it would be helpful. All right. Well, I want to ask, you all seem to be moving on. I know, Caroline, you've graduated from college, and both Eddie and Doug, you're both going back to school, or some of you going part-time or full-time. What are your hopes and dreams sort of going forward? You've had big, huge struggles in your early adulthood. So what are your hopes and dreams moving forward?
I just like to be normal and well and succeed in life.
Definitely to be stable and, finish school and, get on to social work and things like that, and just try and help people the way I've been helped. I think that would just be a big reward for myself, and just helping other people, go through what I went through, and maybe so they won't have to sort of to deal with maybe the same struggles that I did. Maybe I can help someone along the way. I think that would be, really rewarding for me.
So this has really changed you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely on my outlook on life and what I want to do with my life. I mean, it's just given me a new perspective, I think. You know.
Kaylin, how about you?
As simple as it sounds, I just would like to be happy. And I mean, I know that means something different for everybody else, but I'm sure there will be times where I'm not stable, and I want to be okay with however I am and be okay with that. You know, go through life, enjoy the ride. That's what it's supposed to be about. I mean, you know, not to be cliche or anything, but I mean, it's true. You know, you need to really take things one day at a time and just relax. And, you know, I would like to just be comfortable in any setting, being myself and not worrying about, you know, the repercussions of that. So I'm well on my way.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today and for sharing with everybody who's going to be watching. It's really helpful to hear from people in terms of what's happened at college, and it's great to hear that all the things you're doing and where you're moving in your life. And thank you so much for being on the Caring Network. As you have seen, recovery from mental illness is possible, and it's happening every day. Every young person has a bad day now and then and feels sad or anxious or angry. But if their feelings are interrupting with their daily life or relationships with others or interrupting their schoolwork, it might be time to get some answers. Call 211 for information on where to get help or on the web at ct.networkofcare.org. Start the journey today. Answers are readily available. Thank you for watching the Caring Network.